Live from the Loft, it's the Colorado Beer Trail here in our executive suite offices high above the city of Longmont, Colorado. My name is Jim Burris, your host, and tonight we're with Steve Kurowski. He's with the Colorado Brewers Guild. He's the Marketing Communications Director. Steve, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's gonna be a blast.
Thank you very much. Hey, first things first, right? You know, we got to get
fill that glass.
It's the Colorado Beer Trail. We can't. Who would pour beer like this, right? Right.
Well, only people from Colorado.
Right. Look at that. That's how you do this. This is a nitro. This is a Sawtooth Nitro from our local brewery.
Look at that.
Look at that.
That is beautiful.
That's the thing with the nitro beers that Left Hand does. It's like beer art. You know, they do that settling thing. You know, with the nitrogen.
I
and
love
it's just
the
a
artistic
beautiful thing. You watch your
angle,
beer kind of like, hey, I'm coming. I'll be there in a minute. I'm coming on.
Yeah, a little patience will go a long way.
A little patience, and then you get this great, delicious, soft beer.
Well, cheers to that.
Absolutely. So, Steve, again, thanks a lot for being here with the Colorado Beer Trail. And, you know, as the Marketing and Communications Director for the Brewers Guild, tell me a little bit about what the Guild does and what its purpose is, because maybe people don't understand kind of its function.
Sure thing. The Colorado Brewers Guild, we're a state trade group. Well, we're not employed by the state, but we overlook the state craft beer scene in Colorado. And we're funded by dues. Breweries pay us, so it's a voluntary membership the breweries have with us. We have about 185 members now, and our membership drive will hit 200 pretty soon. Right. But our big function is to promote and protect the craft breweries in Colorado. We've been very heavily on a protection standpoint for a long time. That's been really the main reason we've been around. 17, 18 years ago, we were founded. John Carlson, our executive director, was brought on early on in the days to help navigate some of these very new young breweries through some tricky laws of legislation, and has been instrumental since. We have an amazing set of brewing laws in Colorado. Breweries have the opportunity to be profitable pretty quickly with the laws we have by having a tasting room and being able to self-distribute and stuff like that. So it's a great advantage. Now we've gotten to the point, we've grown, we can start promoting this industry. And that's a whole other thing that we started to deal with in the last few years. And the mission of that is to tell everybody all over the state, all over the country, all over the world that Colorado is the state of craft beer and that this is a real true economic driver and part of the DNA in our state.
Great. You know, you were mentioning kind of the growth of the industry. Can you give us kind of a picture of what the beer industry, the craft beer industry in Colorado looks like as far as, you know, some numbers and maybe, you know, compare it to California or Oregon or Washington?
Sure. You know, Colorado's first craft brewery, 1979, was Boulder Beer. Right. So, you know, go back to 79, we had one. Right. Fast forward to today, we're around 250 or so in operation. We have 280 or so brewing licenses issued. Wow. So we have some more breweries on the way. They're going to be opening pretty soon. We're here. I think one just opened up just a couple minutes ago. I think I just got. I just got the Google alert.
Yeah, I heard them loading the hops.
Yeah. So, so yes, we're seeing some really rapid growth, but you know, this third or fourth wave. I think we're in our fourth wave, as some people have kind of categorized us in the state. It hasn't always been this robust. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s, there were a lot of breweries that just didn't make it. Right. I think there were 18 or 19 breweries that opened in 1995, the same year Ska Brewery opened, and there's 4 of those breweries that remain. Really? So there has been some hard times, and I bet if you ask all these breweries that are big and thriving today, there were some times in the 90s where they're wondering what they were going to do next.
Because you know, if you look at national numbers, actually the craft beer industry really just it flattens out, and if you look at it from far enough away, it kind of craters. But what happened there? What was it just growing pains, or were they just not, you know, hey, let's make a brew pub, and the beer wasn't up to snuff, and so they didn't, you know,
I think that it's a combination of problems. There's probably, you know, hadn't learned how to be good business people yet, hadn't learned how to be great brewers yet. The market just wasn't there. I mean, we're up to 7 or 8% nationally. You go back to the 90s, we were maybe 3-4%, 5 at the absolute most. Right. So the market wasn't there. There was a lot of education that we still have to do even today to get people into craft beer. So everyone's thriving today, which is great. It's really exciting. But I think it just took a while to get those wheels turning, that momentum going, and getting people like Left Hand to figure out how to do a nitro beer,
Right.
or these barrel-aged beers that are coming now. And what's happening is a true revolution in beer. It's
The other
amazing.
thing too about Colorado, it seems that there's just a lot of innovation here. I mean, you have Dale Katchis who says, forget the bottles, we're going to cans, right off the bat. I mean, and basically invented the wheel when it comes to cans, and now everybody's doing that. It's a great environmental deal. Now there's the whole nitro, putting your beer on nitrogen. What other trends do you see that are kind of in the pipeline?
Well,
Because you're out there, you know what these guys are doing.
Well, I drink beer too, and just like you,
Right.
so we found
That's
our own
speaking of
trends. Sure. So I think session beers were a big thing last year. Low ABV beers,
Right.
with full flavor, and I think brewers are getting talented enough now where they can do those and do those well. It's really easy to mask your mistakes on high gravity beers.
Okay.
You can put a bunch of hops in there and
Or
bunch of
dry
malts.
hop it at the end. And
Yeah,
hey, here we
you know.
go.
But when you
All's
do a
good.
4%, 5% alcohol beer, it's got to be on point with good flavors, because there's nothing there to mask any of the off flavors there. So I think session beers are a big thing. Obviously, barrel aged beers, sour beers
Right.
are a large trend
Right.
coming through too.
And something else maybe you could speak to is the idea of these nano breweries, like a 5, 7, 10 barrel system. Now maybe 10's getting a bit big, but a lot of breweries seem to be starting out that way, getting their feet wet. What are you seeing out on the
Well, that's
on
really
the
where
trail?
most of the breweries are starting out, right? So we're seeing this large influx of breweries coming in, and it's because you can get a 3 or 5 barrel system in a warehouse district in your neighborhood, and it's not going to cost you so much money you can't afford it. So you can get up and going and be a nano brewery, brew a little bit of beer every day, sell it in the afternoon and evening in your own tasting room, which you can do in Colorado.
Right.
You can't do that in every state. What's happening with some of these nanos here that are able to open up, you can't do that everywhere. So it's a really great way to test the market,
Right.
get your business up and going and grow. I feel every neighborhood deserves a brewery. Just like every neighborhood has a coffee shop.
Right.
These nanos are your afternoon coffee shop. It's a place to go and meet your friends, your neighbors, your family, talk about your day, have a good beer, and then go home, have dinner, and get on with things. And that's what really these are. And it's a great concept. And
It's almost like it seems like it's almost like a production culture around modeled after the pub culture that England used to have. I mean, it's not so
even
strong.
we had before Prohibition, right?
Right.
I mean, every neighborhood had multiple breweries before Prohibition started. And then Prohibition came away and wiped all that out, and then afterwards there's only a few breweries that survived that, but they didn't have refrigerated train cars and
Right.
all this transportation they were able to do with beer they can do today. And keep
And
it
it
fresh.
seems like we're on pace to at least match the number of breweries nationally that we had pre-Prohibition at its peak.
I think we're at 3,200 now, so
Wow.
we're right about pre-Prohibition levels. We're just about back, and that was the damage Prohibition did. It took us a good 70 years
Right.
to get everything back together.
And so you see a lot of the bigger breweries around the state that are really kind of ramping up their production. How much beer does Colorado export? And what kind of name does Colorado have, across the pond and out?
Well, you want to talk about export overseas, like
Yeah.
outside the country?
Right. I mean, I got to tell you, I went to visit my brother in Berlin, and there's this tap house place there. And not tap house, it's just it's kind of this jus américain type of thing. And you go in and it's like, I see a left-hand handle.
Right.
It's like, woohoo,
Yeah, and there's a little bit getting out there.
Right.
And by no means are these breweries selling beer overseas because they have to. They're doing it because they want to. They're actually
Right.
taking beer away from some of their markets in the country to send it overseas.
Oh, wow, okay.
And there's probably maybe, I would say 10 breweries at the most sending beer over there. And the Brewers Association has a great export program. And they kind of help combine shipments of different breweries to fill a container, get it shipped overseas. The UK right now is a really interesting market. Sweden is a big market
Really?
for American craft brewers. They're gobbling up all kinds of beer there. And it's very interesting. It's a very restrictive liquor system that's ran by the government, but still seeing great success.
Nice.
South America, we're seeing some interesting things go on. So, yeah, it's happening, but it's It's something the brewers are doing almost for fun in some ways,
Right.
but they don't need it to make their sales numbers. They're doing it to just even help spread the word of craft beer in America all over.
And is that just because there's? I mean, it seems like you say, oh, we have, we're almost to pre-prohibition, numbers of craft breweries around the country. Colorado's seeing crazy growth. Is there? I mean, has anybody kind of come up with or thought about what's a saturation point? I mean, you mentioned, every neighborhood deserves a brewery or two, depending on how big the neighborhood is. Is there? I mean, where do you say, wow, that's too many? We can't. We're see some die off.
I think breweries come in lots of different shapes and sizes and flavors, and that really is going to depict that. You look at a map of Colorado. There's not many breweries east of Denver. So there's a whole region that still needs some breweries out there, right? Every farm town, I'm waiting for the person to open a brewery in a farm town to make beers with some local ingredients out there, make them for that farmer's community.
Like a Ray brewery or...
Why not?
Right.
Why not? Burlington could use a brewery.
Brush Brewing.
It'd be amazing, right? I don't see why that can't happen. So, there's places where, Denver, we got 50 breweries or so. Are we seeing saturation there? I don't know, but I think it's not the number of breweries, it's the number of breweries that want to get beer on a shelf.
Gotcha.
And that's where it's going to start getting kind of tricky. And shelf space, there's only so much out there, whether it's in a liquor store, whether you're trying to get your beer on tap at a local bar or restaurant or something like that. The more brands that open up that rely on that model, that's where that's going to get sticky. But if your model relies on selling beer to your neighborhood and in your tasting room and in the evenings and afternoons, you can do pretty well.
Right.
So I think we can have a lot of breweries in Colorado, just not everyone needs to be on the liquor store shelf.
I got you. So before, kind of at the beginning of the show, you mentioned that you help local or Colorado breweries with protection. Now, I know you're not running some kind of mafia racket. Hey, we're going to come and break your kegs if you don't pay us some money. But the protection you're talking about, and since we are in the opening days of our current legislative session, what type of protection do our Colorado breweries need? And I kind of know this issue, but I'll let you kind of explain.
Well, there's a lot of things. Making alcohol is a very highly regulated industry by our government. There's only a couple industries, maybe more. Oil, very highly regulated, and there's some new industries in Colorado that are pretty highly regulated too.
Right.
So these brewers have a lot of rules to follow. They got a lot of taxes to pay, got a lot of paperwork to fill out. But what they really want to do is make beer. They don't really have the time to go to the Capitol and fight for some of these laws and really understand these laws of which they have to work under. So that's why we're here, is to help, explain some of the laws, these regulations to our brewers. And when these brewers have questions, or we have questions, or some of these laws or rules are going to change, we're there in the conversations, either at the local level, the state level, or to make sure that we are heard and our concerns are heard in these conversations. For example, tasting rooms. What a wonderful luxury we have in Colorado to have a tasting room. Self-distribution, an amazing luxury for a brewery not to have to be in the three-tier system. We understand the value of the three-tier system, but these little breweries just to put some beer in their truck and drive down to a liquor store and sell it to their neighborhood liquor store is really valuable. That's a very amazing thing to do to be profitable. So you can't do that in most states. So, of course, the grocery store issue, I think that's probably where you're getting at, is coming around again.
Exactly.
And in Colorado, one of the amazing rules that we have here is that you can own one liquor license in the state, which means you can own one liquor store, you can own one restaurant with a liquor license, that you're not a chain. That's not welcome in our state. By law, you can own one. And so when these breweries are selling their beer to these liquor stores where we all go buy our beers, they're doing business directly with these independent liquor stores.
I got you.
These grocery stores want to sell craft beer. We're very flattered by that. But we're not convinced that they're going to put the same amount of time in their beer buying program as a local liquor store is. It takes away from profits from these breweries. You got to sell a lot of beer to these liquor stores to be on their radar. There's only going to be a few breweries in Colorado that would benefit or be able to do the business from this. Not even say benefit, they're going to be able to step up and work with these people. Most of our small breweries don't have the insurance, they don't have the money, they don't have the volume to play with grocery
Right.
stores. So we're keeping our eye on that and making sure that our brewers are well represented during that conversation.
And even that isn't a level playing field if you flip the coin, because and grocery stores continuously lobby against allowing liquor stores to sell produce like limes, lemons, ingredients for a margarita or a Bloody Mary,
Right.
celery and some olives.
Salt.
Yes, exactly. It's just it's like they don't want liquor stores to be grocery stores, but grocery stores want to be kind of liquor stores.
Yes. So keep that in mind. When you go to a liquor store and you can't buy some salt for your margarita,
Right.
or a lime or whatever, you can't buy some chips. That's because it is a law that you cannot buy those things in a liquor store.
Right. And it's interesting to see kind of some of the I don't say higher end, but like the Lucky's of the world. Here in Longmont we've got a Lucky's and the Lucky's liquor store, which has a great selection of craft beers. And but they don't. The grocery store doesn't sell it. It's a separate store, somewhat different hours. But you still have you can still go in and get all the ingredients for a Bloody Mary. Go next door and there's everything you need to make it.
All these liquor stores are very conveniently placed for us.
Right.
They're right next door to a grocery store, so they can live harmoniously together like they have for a long time.
Right.
These grocery stores really want to sell what 93% of the beer market is in this country, which isn't craft beer. Craft beer 7%. The other 93% is our global beer brands that exist in the United States these days, and that's really where they want to focus and concentrate on, because that's what people buy.
Right.
So when people buy their Budweiser and their hot dog buns together, our independent local liquor store is going to suffer.
Cool. And then the other question I had too was, in terms of the legislative issues, are there any other things coming up that are on the radar for the Colorado Brewers Guild?
We're keeping our eye on a few rules that are coming out of the Liquor Enforcement Division. We're really working close with their new executive director and making sure that that he's up to speed on the growth of craft beer and some of these new enforcement rules and rules that are coming on a local level are not necessarily favorable, but are something that craft brewers can deal with. A lot of the liquor laws in the state were written before there were 280 breweries in existence. They were maybe written when there were 1 or 2 or 3.
Right.
So it's a very different landscape now, and we're making sure that as they evolve, that we're included in that conversation as well. So no big legislative stuff that we're going to be at the Capitol this year, but we're there almost every day having conversations with our state legislators and
Keeping the
letting them
relationships
know,
all solid and
letting
fresh.
them know how much money we make a year and how many jobs we represent and all those kind of things, which are really amazing numbers.
Very significant.
And real things.
Yeah. In addition to kind of the nuts and bolts and the legislative work, the Brewers Guild really has a fun component. You put on a lot of promotional events to feature Colorado brewers. Tell me about some of those.
We feel that events in Colorado are, there's not a shortage of them, but some of the ones that we want to be a part of to be very unique. So next month in February in Bristol and Colorado Springs is the Firkin Rendezvous. It's our 11th annual. It's a cask
And
ale
you're
festival.
not trying to be kind of tone the language down for the kiddies
right,
out there.
no.
You're saying Firkin, not
Correct.
frickin'.
Right.
As in
Firkin, as in a cask
You're
beer
not
vessel.
you're not modifying the F-bomb. You're
Correct.
actually talking about the small cask
Correct.
brewed beers.
Yes, thanks for clarifying.
You bet.
So that'll be our 11th annual at Bristol Brewing, which is at their new brewery in Ivy Wild Elementary School, the old elementary school.
Right.
Beautiful
Classic
space.
place too, by the way. If you've ever been there, it's awesome. It's just it's almost like going back to elementary school with my first grade teacher, Mrs. Leeming, and I could see her standing at the chalkboard and saying, "Sit down, shut up, class." And
the classrooms
and
are still there,
and there's a fermenter
brewery.
right
Yeah,
there.
It's really great. So we got the rendezvous going on in February. Collaboration Fest, March 21st, the second annual.
Okay.
That is going to be a Sports Authority field at Mile High Stadium.
Really? Now, what is that in the area outside, kind of like Riot
We are going
Fest,
to do
or
it
what's the deal?
No, we're doing it in the club level, so it's inside the
wow.
stadium. It'll be
Rain or
it'll
shine,
be
'cause it
covered.
won't- yeah, right.
Yeah, we'll be covered. We
Excellent.
got 65 collaborations turned in so far. We got some big out-of-state breweries like Stone and Cigar City coming to play.
Really?
In-state breweries, we got New Belgium, Descade, Station 26 to Mockery, some of the little guys, big guys, new guys.
Fantastic.
I think we have 120 breweries involved and 65 different beers that are going to be brewed and served that day alone. So,
really?
Yeah. I mean, these brews are being brewed for the festival.
That's excellent. And last year, how many people did you get to collaboration?
We had 1,500 people.
That was a really fun event.
And we were at Curtis Hotel, and we had to. That's why we're at Sports Authority Fields. We needed the room.
Yeah.
And it was a big jump for us to do it, but we felt pretty confident.
And I think with the space like that, I think the lines won't be so bad. You won't be kind of shoulder to shoulder, and it's just a lot more fun.
We're not going to oversell it. We're definitely going to sell it where there's still a lot of elbow room for people to walk around, enjoy themselves, and have a quality experience. And then the other big event that we do, we're on our 19th year, is the Brewers Rendezvous in Salida. We're up to 75 breweries that attend. We could have probably 50 more if the park would fit them. But
the dates on that?
That is July 11th. It's always the second Saturday in July.
Okay.
The Brewers Rendezvous in Salida, we're in our 19th year, and it's one not to be missed. It's in Town Park. It's a beautiful spot.
I'll tell you, it's a beautiful spot. Not only is it a beautiful spot, but it's a great, take a couple extra days off, maybe try to, poke it in there with 4th of July. Go rafting,
little fly
fly fishing,
mountain biking.
Bring your rock skis, hike up to the top of Monarch, and do a little, get some turns in on some of their.
Maybe up there. I mean,
really?
Yeah, we've done some mountain biking up near Monarch.
I guess July's a little late.
Maybe a little late,
kind of
but
spoiled
wishful
with the
thinking.
Basin, right?
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. Well, Steve, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
We're done already?
Here. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, I don't know.
You didn't even
I
finish
can talk
your
all
beer.
night. Jeez.
Okay. All right.
Foul there.
I'm just.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. No, I'm not done yet. So,
good.
I'm kind of interested in the nano brewery phenomenon because I know of a couple of them that started up, and these folks, they're definitely what you're talking about. The neighborhood beers got a little warehouse space tucked in a little 7-barrel system, and they've gone ballistic. I mean, some of their beers have really taken off, and they're actually going out to breweries that aren't quite using their capacity and contracting with them to not only brew their beer but can it as well. And so they have almost the best of both worlds. They don't have to go out and get additional funding and get back into debt to expand their systems. They're serving their customers. They're making really good beer, but the ones that are doing better, they're able to kind of ramp that up. Is that? I mean, to what extent?
You perfectly outlined how a Colorado brewery can start up perfectly.
But I guess my question is, how many of those are there out there? I mean, I know of like 2 or 3, but I don't know.
Oh, there are countless. I would say,
really,
of the nano breweries, as you're saying,
right?
There's 100 in the state at least.
Right now.
Yes. I'd say there's 100.
And is this what places are doing up in the mountains and stuff? Or the little towns are seasonal?
Mountains are tough because real estate in the mountains is expensive.
Right.
Like Vail doesn't have a brewery. Like why? Because these nano breweries can't afford Vail.
Right.
But they're in Edwards and Steamboat and maybe what's the one in Riff Raff Brewing? The guys down in Pagosa Springs, right?
Well,
so,
Aspen kind of brought back its brewery.
They figured that one out. Thank
Right.
goodness. Dustin got that one going, which is really great. But it's really up and down the Front Range. Boulder County, there's the nano capital of the state right there, and it's incredible. You go to Fort Collins, places like Horse and Dragon.
Oh, right.
Lindsay Cornish, that comes from Odell, goes to Horse and Dragon, brings all this amazing experience and knowledge from Odell and brings it to this little nano brewery and brews amazing beer out of the gate. They're the biggest surprises, and that's what the exploration's all about in Colorado is people bouncing around to these breweries. Go to River North in Denver, right?
Right.
They're up to like 8 breweries in the River North neighborhood. You can park your car there and walk around to 6 breweries in an afternoon. It's incredible.
Yeah, and then.
Hey Steve, our friend Josh says your beard looking scrumptious.
Oh, thank you, Josh.
Oh, that's right. We have people. Hey, that's right. If you're watching this
did
at
he
home,
spell that
if you're
correctly?
watching this at home, please feel free to text us a question if you have something you're interested in, or
Yeah.
Mine,
send us a question.
I keep
answer.
this trimmed up because it's too sparse. I look homeless and kind of Unabomberish if I let it grow out. So I just keep it down.
Well,
you on the other hand, man,
I got to go in here, but not up there. We're reversed. But Josh made me blush a little bit under this thing.
Okay, so we got an online question. Thank you very much for that. Is there a growing market for for local suppliers for things like grains and hops. You know, back in
Sure.
2008, there was that whole hop, shortage, and it's one of those things. I mean, it hurt the brewers more because they didn't want to raise their prices, so they kind of ate the cost of importing a lot of hops or getting, the
Hops
few
that
hops
maybe
that were
didn't
around.
even, like
Right.
they used Simcoe, they might have had to use Chinook or something if they could just get whatever they're getting their hands on.
Right. I mean, did that kind of get some local production? I mean, I know
There's a little. Colorado's not the most ideal place to grow abundance of hops.
Okay, too dry.
It's a little dry. It's a little hot. And soil's maybe not as deep as you got in Pacific Northwest or some, maybe the UK or where a lot of these other stuff come from. But they're trying. We've got about 125 acres from what I know in Colorado. And they're giving it a try, but we could use about 1,000 times that to really feed the state. So, but
What
these
about
brewers
barley?
they like to source globally. You
Right.
know, they like to get their German hops and their UK hops to brew it exactly what they want to brew.
Right.
You can't brew 100 different varieties of hops in anywhere.
What
so-
about barley? I mean, and
Yeah.
is there, there's a malter in state. But
Colorado Malting Company is definitely working the hardest and trying to get as much stuff to craft brewers as they can.
Wow.
Of course, Coors in the state, they're responsible for a lot of grain production, and they have their own maltery, malt stir in Golden, and so they're taking up a large percentage being grown in the state.
Right.
But Colorado malting is certainly helping. There's a gentleman in Fort Collins, Chris Schooley, who is just about to open his custom malt company, Troubadour, I think he's calling it.
Really?
It's going to be in the same neighborhood as Horse and Dragon and Funkworks.
Excellent.
And he's going to be a micro maltster.
so do some specialty stuff, some crystal malts, some smoked malts. Things
Yeah,
like
I'm not sure what his house malt's going to be, but we'll see.
Right.
And then you got bottle companies and can companies that are selling all kinds of supplies, boxes and
And let's not forget, I mean,
T-shirts and
doesn't White Yeast
White Labs.
White Labs. I'm sorry, White Labs. Their yeast company. They're headquartered in San Diego, I think.
I think they're in San Diego.
But they have offices here as well.
Oh, sure thing. Yeah,
'Cause I think
we're a market for them that goes through.
So we have
lots
really,
of demand for their yeast.
We have everything, soup to nuts here for beer. We can do all that. Another question from online. Thank you very much, folks. How do craft beer drinkers help support the Guild? What do you, when you go out to your favorite tap room, your favorite local bar, and buy Colorado brewed beer, what are those folks doing to help support the Guild?
Excellent
what
question.
happens?
So there's a few ways to get involved with CBG as a beer lover. Attend our events. We have all of our events on our website.
Let's go over those again. We have the Collaboration Fest.
We'll start with Firkin.
Okay.
The Firkin Rendezvous into Collaboration Fest.
And the date?
Firkin Rendezvous is February 21st. And then February 11th.
Okay.
You're going to put me on the
February
spot on these.
All right.
It's going to be amazing if I get them all right. And then we go into Collaboration Fest March 21st. We'll then go to Burning Can.
Oh, right.
With
Up in
Oscar
Lions,
Blues. We'll
with
do that with Lions.
That's great.
I think that's May 30th this year. All canned beer. We had 50 breweries last year from across the country in Lions for Lions outdoor games. That was great fun. Lake Dillon Beer Festival on the shores of beautiful Lake Dillon.
Great time to get up in the mountains.
Sunshine, it's usually 75 degrees,
Yep.
sailboats out on the lake, drinking beer, it's wonderful. There's some live bluegrass every year. We then roll into the Brewers Rendezvous in Salida on July 11th. And then Sesh Fest, all session beers, beers under 5%. That'll be in Denver August 1st
Great
this
one.
year.
Another one you can walk away from.
You can walk away from it, yeah, well done. And
Hey,
then,
and let's mention this too. ColoradoBeer.org.
Yes,
ColoradoBeer.org.
thank you.
That's
God, I'm
the
a
that's the
marketing guy. I
official.
haven't
That's
even
the
told you
official.
the
That's
website.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what we do here at Colorado Beer Trail.
Thanks for
We know
helping
that.
out.
But go to the website. They've got a calendar there. You can check out all those events. They've got a lot of great information. You can join. And the other thing, let's mention, is social.
The social program is our beer enthusiast program.
Social program.
Social is an acronym. It stands for Supporter of Colorado Indigenous Ales and Lagers. $25, you get a T-shirt.
Right.
You get a membership card that gets you discounts at
It'll pay
dozens
for
of breweries.
it will pay for itself at $1 off a pint. It'll pay for itself for me in about a week and a half.
Yeah. You're a slow drinker. And then you'll also get a cool sticker
slow.
too to put on your car. So
Right.
social program is our beer enthusiast program, and check it out.
And does buying, another question from online. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Does buying craft beer companies purchased by the big guys like the Goose Island, the Boulevard, Elysian, etc., help or hurt the industries? What's your take on this? Because here's the thing: Budweiser, Coors has done this, I think, the best of all of them, because they opened up. They have the Coors Field brewery that they started up, and those guys rock it. Those guys brew award-winning beers year after year. The Sandlot Brewery, exactly, and that's kind of where Blue Moon got its start, and then it kind of took off. But I think that's kind of their. To me, I don't understand why they don't use that as like their AA or AAA ball team, and then move some of those beers into main production. But that's just me. But what about the Budweisers of the world who say we brew 1 million gallons a day. We can't brew this craft beer stuff. We can add some amber to it and call it something. But how are they, when they want to get into the market, instead of actually doing the work and brewing good beer, they go buy an existing craft beer company?
Well, it's a trend that's still pretty fresh, the way I take it. There's been some sales in the last decade or so that have hit the radar. Everything from Red Hook to Kona Brewing, stuff like that. But now we're seeing these breweries hit 15, 20 years old, and some of these owners are going to have an exit strategy. And some owners, who knows what their exit strategy is going to be. I think we're going to be surprised by some of these acquisitions or we see coming forward. Elysian was a surprise to me. But I think a lot of these, I can't really blame them. I can't say if it's good or bad for craft beer. I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. But it's these people are living the American dream.
Sure.
They started a business in their garage, and now they're going to be able to retire at an earlier age for a very long time. And I can't really knock them too hard for that. But at the same time, as someone who champions independent business and stuff like that, there's concern. There's concern that that's going to be a trend that's going to be hard to unwind. But it seems like some of the response from the craft beer industry and some of the brewers that it's not going to be a widespread thing, selling to some of these global brewing companies. I think we'll see a few here and there. Maybe we'll see some of these independents start getting together and doing their own thing.
Or maybe these brewers are going to have kids, and then the kids can either assume the
I'll guarantee there's strategies with that happening. There's some of that happening.
Back when I first, literally in the year that I brewed my first batch of beer in 1988. Dick Yingling introduced me to his daughter, Elizabeth, because he did, it's Yingling and Sons Brewery, right? And he has no sons.
Very nice.
So he's like, hey, Jim, you met my daughter, Elizabeth. She's,
what happened? Why didn't you close the deal?
No, you know what? The thing is, Pottsville and Pottstown. I was in Pottstown. I was in Pottsville. And just wasn't, just not in the cards. And,
gotcha.
and I was just getting ready to move back into Colorado because,
the excuses
got my daily newspaper experience, so time to go back to Colorado and start writing on beer for the Daily Camera, Burris on Beer.
Well, lucky us then.
Yeah. But it's interesting that kind of the kind of the hand it down to the kids idea. We haven't been in this long enough. I guess you're right that to see how that
we're going to start seeing some of that though. I think there's some of those action plans we're actually seeing. Ryan Odell, he's sales guy at Odell. He's out there working hard.
Right.
But he's nephew. He's not the son of Doug or
He's got the name though.
But he's got the name. But there's some family things that are starting to happen. It'll be really neat to see how they.
Well, so kids, get out there, go hit the trail, and maybe introduce yourself to some of these brewers' siblings or kids, and say
marry into the family,
and off you go. Up in the mountains, one of the things that I was wondered about is why, you mentioned this just earlier, Steamboat, some of these, Avail and some of these places, is it just the real estate, or is it just you can't make a go of brewing beer in some of the toity resort towns?
You can the restrictions of brewing beer in a resort town shouldn't keep you from doing that. Heck, there was someone in Silverton brewing beer until very recently. So there's been breweries in Silverton, before Prohibition, so they can brew beer at high altitudes. It's not a problem. Water's accessible. You can get materials in and out. But I think real estate is probably something to do with that. But these mountain towns, Steamboat's opened 2 breweries in the last year. Butcher Knife and Storm Peak have both opened up and serving the community very well. Yep. Go down to Durango. There's 6 breweries in Durango, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Holy cow!
And they got that train going in and out of town, so they got
they got the tourism there to help drink it, but 17,000 people live there. They got 6 breweries.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
That is cool. In any discussion, especially with you and the Colorado Brewers Guild, we would be remiss in not mentioning and discussing the impact that Charlie Papazian has had on the whole craft beer movement. I mean, single-handedly, if anybody single-handedly has been responsible for a complete, creation and now thriving industry of craft beer, it's got to be that guy. I mean, teaching people to brew beer, and how important is that knowledge about beer?
I mean, home brewing that's really what launched this whole thing. When home brewing was legalized in the 70s, people started brewing beer in the garage, say, I want to do this commercially. And next thing you know, breweries were opening within a year or 2 after home brewing being legalized.
All right, let's go get a farm and hygiene, and we'll start.
And there were people probably brewing, home brewing before it was totally legalized, but it was happening. But once it kind of started happening, for him to write those books and get people to get into it, he's the grandfather of craft beer. There's no question about it. Super valuable to our industry. It wouldn't be where it is today. The GABF wouldn't exist without Charlie Papazian. He's an incredible, source of inspiration to tons of breweries who are wanting and planning to open and still rolling today. So Charlie he's an incredibly valuable asset.
If I had a beer, wink, wink, I would cheer that, but and maybe I will in a second. Another question, one of our viewers wants to know, what gets you excited about the future of craft beer in Colorado? What again, kind of back to trends, but what do you see making the future bright, sunny, and luxurious for craft beer?
I mean, one thing I just saw yesterday. I was down at Renegade Breweries. They just opened an expansion or starting to open an expansion of their brewery in Denver down on Santa Fe. And it's amazing to see the steps they've taken in the last 3 years as a brewery and where they're going to go, and the growth and just independent spirit.
Right.
Regular people like me and you, they're not any more specials. They're the ones that put their butt on the line and went and got a brewing license and bought all this equipment and put their house on their second mortgage and everything they did. See the success that comes out of these independent brewers and just these people working their ass off to make stuff happen. That's what I'm most excited about. It's not going to stop. I mean, the growth is going to keep going. And
and the interesting thing too that I've seen, or at least some of the people I talked with, you were talking about nano breweries before. As the ones that start to get successful, obviously they're like, well, 5-7 barrels isn't handling it. I need 20 or 30. So they make that jump. Hey, here's a 7-barrel system. Little used, but available for less than brand new. Here's another entry point for a wannabe.
True, or even
brewer.
pilot systems for other breweries too.
Right.
Some people just keep those to have as their pilot systems because those are really, those are valuable.
Right.
I mean, look at the 5-barrel pilot system at Odell right now and how key that is to the beers they're doing on the side, their project beers. I mean, Lugene came off the 5-barrel pilot system there, right? So amazing stuff. The growth will create some equipment. I hope it's a different sort of used equipment sort of grab that came from the 90s when breweries were shutting down. I don't want to see breweries shut down and have all this used equipment out there to purchase. But other things coming up in the future of craft beer in Colorado, more employment. I mean, we're up at 5,000 people now. There's people that are making a really good living in craft beer.
And when you say 5,000 really people, that's 5,000 people directly employed at a brewery making or being involved in the brewing process. It does not include delivery people that are working in distributors that need, larger warehouses or more, diverse warehouses where they can move this stuff. Does that
tap rooms doesn't include, bars, restaurants that don't brew beer. It doesn't include people who sell boxes to breweries or glass or bottle caps. It doesn't include people who sell CO2 and do plumbing and go and help install the tanks and do construction and remodel. It doesn't include any of that. Around 5,000 employees.
So this is
are
this
directly
is a
employed.
really robust industry here in the state. I mean, it really is doing.
It's a true economic driver, and we figured out in 2013 with the University of Colorado Lead School of Business, we did an economic impact study. About $826 million in revenue we created in 2013.
826
million.
And that's in 13. You didn't do one last year?
We will do our 2014 study the summer of this year.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have
So you
our
go back all
results
the
for
numbers.
this. And we with growth,
knocking on the big B.
we might hit the billion in
That's
2014, and that
Cheers
is,
to that, right on?
that-
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
cheers to the
that's it.
Brewers, cheers to
Right.
people who do this, and that's going to be a real big talking point. That's not something most states can claim that
Right.
they're $1 billion industry.
Yeah, maybe California, but hey, it's California. You'd
California.
expect $1 billion from
Yeah.
California.
Yeah, let's
Great.
expect that.
So, anything else with the Brewers Guild that we should be looking out for? I mean, you told us about some of your events. Do you get involved in any kind of ancillary events like the Fat Tire, the Tour de Fat?
Oh,
things
just
like that?
participating and
Right.
having fun with that. But some things we do behind the scenes, maybe some people don't know about. I mean, we work really close with the Colorado Tourism Office.
Okay.
We're heading to New York next month to do a beer tasting to about 50 or 60 New York journalists, travel and beer writers out there.
Right.
And the tourism office is going out there with us to bring out some Colorado spirits, some Colorado wines, some Colorado buffalo and elk, and we're giving them a full-on presentation. What's
Couple
going on here.
of half ounces along with that? No,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
not. Yeah.
No, we'll keep that out of
Right,
the conversation for now.
Okay.
But they have events planned in Toronto this year with the tourism office that we'll be accompanying them with, Munich, Portugal. We are taking the message of craft beer around the world, telling them what's going on in Colorado. But, come to our events and see what we're doing. We're launching a new website in June. Be a very robust website loaded with a lot of Colorado events, all the breweries, everything that's going on. But that's a few months out. Let's not get too excited about that yet.
One last question from one of our viewers. Brewer moves out of the state with new locations,
Yep.
North Carolina, et cetera. Is it a concern or just reaching the East Coast market?
Yeah, so the question, breweries that are building breweries in other parts of the country, a la Oscar Blues, New Belgium, Sierra
Right.
Nevada is doing it, or they've done it. Their new brewery in North Carolina is absolutely amazing. It's not a concern. They are definitely going out there to spread distribution up and down the East Coast. And
Well, because I
think
mean, your
that-
costs. I mean, you build a brewery. In the long run, it's cheaper to brew
Well,
it there.
it's also
and
your quality
move
of
it up
beer
and
is
down.
harder to get coast to coast without getting messed up too.
Right.
So it's not a concern. Stone's looking at some places we understand in some other parts of the country. I think it's going to be something you'll see. Some East Coast breweries might be going out west to get their distribution going on
Right.
too.
Right.
So no, not a huge concern. It's actually really exciting to see that there's this much demand and interest in craft beer coast to coast.
Cool. Well, Steve, thanks again for coming here and joining us live in the loft.
Hey, happy to
with
be
the
here, man.
Colorado
It's
Beer Trail.
amazing.
It's so great to just sit and jam about Colorado beer because there's so much going on. And you're right. Get out to some of the events and see what some of the other breweries are doing. There's some amazing beer to be had, and those like the Collaboration Fest. Great time to check out some excellent beers.
Yeah.
So Steve Kurowski, who's the Marketing Communications Director for the Colorado Beer Guild, great to have you.
Thanks
And,
for the beers. They were delicious.
Listen, we have a little kind of a tradition here at the Beer Trail. We like to sticker up our fridge.
I brought one.
So you did?
Yeah.
Well, let's go.
I
Slap
got
her on.
our state of craft beer sticker.
Excellent.
This is saying that Colorado is a state of craft beer.
Excellent.
I think I'll put it right there. How does that
That's a
sound?
good place. Excellent.
Look at that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks again.
Thanks
and
for the beers,
we'll see you
man.
out on the
Love it.
Colorado Beer Trail.
Cheers. Yeah, we'll see you guys around.
Cheers.